Okay, so we've had an early onset winter this year, and we've had cold temperatures and snow and rain and sleet, and out of the blue, today it zipped right up there to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So I decided I would test out a early Christmas present I gave myself, and that's the Nikon Z6 mirrorless camera. So I put my 105mm micro macro lens on it, f2.8, and decided to take the camera out and take a look at the bees up close and then share some of this video with you. None of the video is edited, it's right out of the camera. The camera was set on automatic, and we are shooting at 119.8 frames per second, which is the 120 setting in the camera. So other than that, it's all automatic, and there's lots of activity on these landing boards today. What the bees are primarily doing are just cleaning house and getting rid of any dead bees and stuff. Anytime there's a bump up in the temperatures, we want to be ready to help the bees and offer them some outside feeding if we can. One of the advantages of the 119 or the 120 frame rate is we can do these slow motion sequences. So I thought I would also test that out. This lens does have vibration reduction built into it, but remember, this is not a lens that is being sold with this camera. I have the adapter. And so it's not a perfect world, but I'm pretty pleased with the image quality here, and it looks pretty stable. All the video sequences that we're watching are handheld, so we're not using a slider, a tripod, or anything like that. And just a great opportunity to test it out on some bees and look at the bees in the process. We're flying out, as I said. I did set out some 2-to-1 sugar water to see if any of them would be interested in it, and some of them were. We'll show that sequence in a minute. At the end of this video, you're also going to see the rig that I use, the way I set it up. I am using a Sennheiser on-camera microphone, so I'll also show you that. But the bees are healthy, all the hives are good. We have 7 colonies here in this apiary, and they are just flying everywhere. They're interested in everything. And several bees, of course, are dying in the snow, which is typical. Don't panic if you see a bunch of dead bees in the snow in front of your hive. Those were not going to make it back anyway. And they're just taking advantage of the warm day just like we are. Nice close-up here. Slow motion sequence again. This was shot at 120, and I've slowed it down to 10% normal speed. So you can see this female worker bee kind of cleaning her tongue. She's got sugar water residue on her. That's what the little white spots and stuff are. The bees are going to clean each other up. They're getting high energy off of it. Normally we would feed 1-to-1, but because it's in winter now, we're going 2-to-1, or even more dense would be better for the bees. Remember, they won't have the time to dehydrate. They're going to be putting the sugar water that they're getting in the cells that they've consumed already for the early cold. Here's another entrance. Screens are still in place. Now I left the screens instead of replacing with wood reducers, and that's because on days like today, when it does warm up, it's going to melt off the snow quicker, and they're going to get some ventilation in there, and they're going to clean house. Now notice the focus does rack a little bit, but again, remember, this is a micro macro lens, and it's not great for any kind of automatic focus. It is kind of rough. I'll have to look into the camera a little better and see if I can control the speed at which it adjusts focus. And now we're out here. All of these sequences are filmed on my property, and this is the pond in my backyard. You can see where the water level was on these trees there. So we've had a big snow melt off. It was frozen, and now it's thawed again. So we kind of got a spring thaw, but it's December 2nd. So this is unusual. We had an unusually early winter hit, and now we have a strange warm up here for the past couple of days. As I said, it got to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I'm hand holding this, and the panning is a little rough and choppy here. I would probably post produce this and stabilize it with a warp stabilizer or something. The other thing is testing the high contrast here. Usually when you shoot snow, it tends to darken way down. All the settings were automatic, so I'm just seeing how the camera handles this. This is an aster that's gone by, just to show some macro close-up here, and again, the dynamic range is pretty darn good. So I'm probably going to be doing a lot of my honeybee video sequences with this Z6. I like it. Of course, and we're aiming straight at the sun, so I wanted to see how well it handled that. The audio is pretty good here, but then that's coming from the Sennheiser microphone, which I'll show you at the end of the video. And this is the runoff that's just going through my woods right now. This is normally what we would see in the springtime, but it's happening now. And this is slowed down just a little bit. This is at 50%, the normal frame rate. You can touch the screen and focus on different parts. I found that pretty sensitive, and I could select areas, and it did a good job of that. So I like the touch screen. I did have some problems when I was reaching up to touch the screen, in that it would block the viewfinder, and the touch screen would go dark because the viewfinder has a sensor, so if you put your face up to it, it will automatically switch off the screen, and you'll be looking through the EVF, which is the electronic viewfinder. And so I had to be careful about how I held my finger up next to that flip screen on the back there, or it would switch to the electronic viewfinder instead of showing what I needed on the screen. But small thing, it took me just a second to figure out that that's what was going on. Here we are super close. Again, these are all macro sequences. I think the camera's going to do really well with wide-angle lenses and some of the primes and so on. So we'll just have to see. Again, we're a little shaky here, but I'm hand holding it. The lens itself does have vibration reduction. I'm not sure that it's able to utilize the camera's built-in vibration reduction. And it was interesting, I came across this little black wasp here that normally would be in hibernation, so this is probably a queen. And very cold. This is in the shade, so we're videoing in a dark area, and the camera did really well. And just a long shot here to show you kind of the value range here if we're looking across the pond. The snow looks pretty natural in color, and the white balance was on automatic as well. So, and we're just taking close-ups of little bits and pieces of plants here. And here's the rooster. Now I wanted to show him because his head is being hit by the sun and his body is in shade, so the dynamic range here is pretty good. And it also would track him, so I touched his head on the screen and the focus stayed right on him. And here's one of the bees that flew out and did not make it back. She's just expired in the snow. And again, that's fairly normal when you have an immediate warm-up like this. Now here's the camera setup. This is the Nikon Z6, yeah, and the body's very small. The Sennheiser microphone looks huge on it. I have the adapter. One of my motivations for getting this mirrorless camera was the fact that I could use all of my Nikon lenses. This is the Sennheiser mic, the Model 440, and these are the settings that I use, although it's in the off position right now. Just so you can see how it is. I had it on full range for the focal length. It did have problems going from focusing to something far out to something very close to the macro lens. I had to manually get it kind of close and then let the automatic focus take over, so it wasn't great for that. And we're showing you the back of the camera. This thing is tiny. It's so lightweight in my hand. You could tote this thing around all you want. The way I got those low water shots is I tilted the screen out. That screen goes almost flat, and this is the maximum tilt down, so if you were holding it over your head, it will not fold flat. It goes out just this far, and here it is in the closed position. Again, that microphone normally doesn't look that big, but this camera body is very small, and so I decided I'd do a comparison. These are Nikon's largest bodies. The one on the left is the Nikon D5. The one on the right is the Nikon D4S, and it has the 70-200 on it, and the D5 has the 24-70. So just, you can really, in comparison, see how tiny the Z6 body is. And again, this is going to be my fun camera. I'm just going to run around, and probably a lot of my YouTubes will be with the Z6 here, and I'll be using other lenses. I figured the micro-macro lens would be the most difficult. So from the back, again, you really get a sense of scale there. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this beneficial.